any sense of Bengal as a nation is governed by the putative identity of Bengali language. Meanwhile, Bengalis dispute if the purest Bengali is that of Navadvip or South Calcutta. মানে কে যে প্রপার বেঙ্গলি কার ডায়ালেক্ট কি সেটা নিয়ে একটা সমস্যা রয়েছে। In 1947, on the eve of its departure from India, the British government divided Bengal into West Bengal, which remained a part of India, যেটা আমরা থাকি আর কি, and East Pakistan, যেটাকে আমরা পূর্ববঙ্গ বলি। So Punjab was similarly divided into East Punjab, that is in India, and West Pakistan. The two parts of Pakistan did not share ethnic or linguistic ties and were separated by nearly 1100 miles. The division was made on the grounds of the concentration of Muslims in these two parts of the subcontinent. Yet the Punjabi Muslims felt themselves to be more Arab because they lived in the area where the first Muslim emperors of India had settled nearly 700 years ago. And also because of their proximity to West India. ওই পার্টটার সঙ্গে যেহেতু ওরা linked up, and that's why they considered themselves to be more Arabian, you see. The Middle East, okay, the Bengali Muslims, no doubt, in a class differentiated way, felt themselves constituted by the culture of Bengal. Bengal has had a strong presence of leftist intellectualism. You have to keep it in mind that Maheshwara Devi was a prominent and prolific author. She was a writer who belonged to the typical left-hand ideology, or leftist ideology. So, when she was actually writing these kinds of texts in Bengal, the left government was also there. So fundamentally, it says that Bengal has had a strong presence of leftist intellectualism and struggle since the middle of the last century. Before, in fact, the word left entered our political shorthand. West Bengal is one of the three communist states in the Indian Union. As such, it is a source of considerable political irritation to the central government of India. So ultimately, you can identify there is a kind of a clash between the central and the state. Why? Because the left government or the communist state was there in Bengal. So it says therefore that as such it is a source of considerable political irritation to the central government of India. The individual state governments have a good deal more autonomy under the Indian constitution than in the case of in the US. Although officially India is a socialist state with a mixed economy, historically, so there is a difference, you see, that officially it considers to be a socialist state with a mixed economy, but historically it has reflected a spectrum on the right, okay, from military dictatorship to nationalist class benevolence. Okay, the word democracy becomes highly interpretable in the context of a largely illiterate, multilingual, heterogeneous, and unpoliticized electorate. Now the important section comes actually. In the spring of 1967, there was a successful peasant rebellion in the Naxalbari. In Bengali, it is considered Naxalbari movement or Naxalbari Andolan. You know that Naxalites, okay, that means today they have been treated as CPIML. Okay, that means Communist Party of India, Marxist and Leninist. As Leninists, so therefore you can find there are more activists in that particular party and activism in their theory or ideology. So this is a peasant rebellion, as you can see. That means Krishak Vidroh in Naxalbari area of the northern part of the West Bengal. According to a person, an historian actually, unlike most other areas of West Bengal, where peasant movements are led almost solely by middle-class leadership from Calcutta, Naxalbari has spawned an indigenous agrarian reform leadership led by the lower classes, including tribal cultivators. That's very significant actually. That means in most of the cases we find that the rebellion has to be led by the persons who are coming from the middle class. Generally, it has been shown, it has been pointed out. But in case of the Naxalbari movement, you find that the leadership is led by the lower classes. Okay, the indigenous agrarian reform movement is considered to be. So this particular coalition of peasant and intellectuals sparked of a number of Naxalbaris all over India. So the Naxal becomes a particular term. The target of these movements was the long established operation of the landless peasantry and itinerant farm worker. Okay, sustained through an unofficial government landlord collusion that too easily circumvented the law. So you can find that what is actually happening. So that was in 1967, that was a kind of a peasant movement that was there, and now presently you can find at Delhi, the peasant movement is always there. It is the second time that the peasants are actually moving forward. But the focus was something different. You see that at the time in 1967, when that particular movement was actually happened, you can find that there was the operation and the landless peasantry. Okay, so everything has to be associated with the different kinds of operation. Here, at the present scenario, in the present time, we find also another kind of a movement that is going on, and it's the typical the bill that was going to be going to become an act, and now it has been stayed by Supreme Court. So the target of these movements was the long established operation of the landless peasantry and the itinerant farm worker, sustained through an unofficial government landlord collusion that too easily circumvented the law. Indeed, one might say that the legislation seemed to have an eye to its own future circumvention. It is worth remarking that this coalition of peasant and intellectual, okay, that is the different parts of the society, obviously. One, it is the peasant who is coming from the lower section of the society, and the intellectual who are mostly the middle class people. Okay, so this particular coalition, this particular kind of a link has been incorporated, and this particular kind of coalition of peasant and intellectual with long histories of apprenticeship precisely on the side of the intellectual has been recuperated in the West by both ends of the polarity that constitutes a political spectrum. Okay, a French philosopher, he considers that new philosopher has implicitly compared it to the May 1968 revolution in France, where the students joined the workers. Okay, in France in 1968, the similar kind of movement was to be observed. In France, however, the student identity of the movement had remained clear, and the student leadership had not brought with it sustained efforts to undergo the privilege of the intellectual. On the other hand, in much of the same manner as many American college presidents have described the protest of the American students, Indian political and social leaders have explained the Naxalites, that is the supporters of Naxalbari, by referring to their sense of alienation and to the influence of writers like Marcuse and Sartre, which has seemingly dominated the minds of young people throughout the world in 1960s, as you can know. It is against such recuperation that I submit that I have called the theme of class deconstruction with reference to the young gentleman revolutionaries in Draupadi. Okay. ওকে, আমি ওই টেক্সচুয়াল রেফারেন্সেস গুলোতে এখনই যাব না। যেটা হয়েছিল সেখানে বলছে দেখো যে 1970 দ্য ইমপ্লিসিট হস্টালিটি, 1970 এর একটা সমস্যা হয়েছিল তোমরা জানো যে দ্য ইমপ্লিসিট হস্টালিটি between East and West Pakistan flamed into armed struggle. Okay, and in 1971, at a crucial moment in the struggle, the armed forces of the government of India were deployed, seemingly because there were alliances between the Naxalites of West Bengal and the freedom fighters of East Bengal, now Bangladesh. Okay, that means at one point in West Bengal you can find the Naxalites who are actually moving far, and in East Bengal there are the freedom fighters. So both actually came to the forefront, and both had a kind of similar kind of orientation of the struggle. So generally what happened, that both were or controlled with the help of the gunpowder. So if a guerrilla-style insurgency had persisted, these forces would undoubtedly have come to dominate the politics of the movement. It was this trend that the Indian authorities were determined to preempt by intervention. They had to intervene. Taking advantage of the general atmosphere of jubilation at the defeat of West Pakistan, India's principal nation rival in South Asia, this was also the first time India had won a war in the millennial history. The Indian Prime Minister was able to crack down with exceptional severity on the Naxalites, destroying the rebellious sections of the rural population, most significantly the tribals as well. The year 1971 is thus a point of reference in Shenanayak's career. So ultimately, you can find in this particular story, that is in Draupadi, you can find that there is an ample reference, there's an ample provision of such kind of reference or such kind of association. Say, for example, Draupadi. Who is Draupadi? Draupadi Mejan has been considered to be one among coming from the lower section of the society. Okay, they are belonging to the lower class. Okay, and fundamentally you will find that Shenanayak and along with the other policemen there, they are actually dominating them. Okay, they are controlling them, and in the process of this control, as you can see, you can find that the physical rupture has been made. Okay, and that is the fundamental focus of this particular text. I will come to that later when I will discuss about the title Draupadi, how this particular text can be classified, can be related with the mythical Draupadi of Mahabharata, what are the basic differences, in which point we can find a similarity, why Mahashata Devi is taking this particular name here. Okay, so all these things have to be detailed or discussed in detail later. But before going to that, let us move towards the text, what it actually appears to be.